Capitalist investment follows a specific cycle. Money is used to purchase commodities, which are then sold for more money, M to C to M prime. Classical economists like Adam Smith and David Ricardo assumed that in a functioning free market, every commodity is bought and sold at its true, fair value. This perspective relied on the assumption that capitalists purchased a worker's labor like any other industrial input. This creates a mathematical paradox. If a capitalist pays the exact value for raw materials and the exact value for the labor applied to them, the final product's value perfectly balances against the cost of its inputs. Within this classical model, profit is mathematically impossible unless the market is malfunctioning or someone is being cheated. Classical economics struggled to explain the origin of surplus value because its core equation relied on an inaccurate definition of labor. Karl Marx resolved this paradox by applying economic deduction to the classical model. Marx identified the conceptual flaw in the classical definition of labor in his 1867 text, Das Kapital. His primary theoretical breakthrough was a simple distinction. The capitalist does not buy labor. Labor itself has no value. It is the mechanism that measures value. What the capitalist actually purchases is labor power, the worker's potential or capacity to work. Labor power is the only commodity whose unique use value is the ability to generate more value than it costs to maintain. Substituting labor power into the equation provides the theoretical key to how exploitation occurs in a perfectly fair market. Inside the industrial system, human labor power is treated as a raw input, no different than coal or steel. How does the market determine the exact price of this specific commodity? This ledger calculates the exchange value of labor power. Like any commodity, its value is determined by the socially necessary labor time required to produce it. This includes the absolute minimum material inputs required to keep the human machine alive, establishing its fixed daily cost. Marx noted that this baseline subsistence varies depending on a society's level of civilization, but it remains a fixed daily expense regardless. This fixed exchange value is distinct from the worker's use value, the actual deployment of their energy on the factory floor over time. The daily cost of a worker is anchored to their physical survival, disconnected from the ultimate value of the goods they produce. This industrial clock tracks the worker's output across a standard 12-hour working day. Marx identifies the first segment of the day as necessary labor time. During these specific hours, the worker materializes enough new value to replace the capital the employer advanced for their wages. By hour 6, the worker has produced the value of their own daily subsistence. If the working day ended at this exact moment, the capitalist would merely break even. The worker has paid for their own keep, but the capitalist's goal of expansion has not yet been met. The capitalist's structural leverage lies in the contract. They did not buy 6 hours of effort. They bought the use of labor power for the full 12-hour day. The clock mechanism forces into surplus labor time, the remainder of the day where the worker is compelled to continue producing. During this period, the worker is no longer creating value for themselves. This expenditure of labor power costs the capitalist absolutely nothing. This is surplus value, nothing more than materialized, objectified, and unpaid surplus labor. Because the worker agreed to the daily wage and the capitalist paid it, the process appears fair, masking the extraction occurring inside the sphere of production. Marx's model identifies exploitation as the mathematical baseline of a wage-labor system functioning exactly as intended. In order to survive against competition, the capitalist system demands the constant and perpetual expansion of this surplus value. Marx identified 2 distinct strategies for capital to increase its ratioed surplus value. The first lever is absolute surplus value, stretching the total working day. But physical exhaustion creates hard limits, forcing a second method. Relative surplus value increases productivity to cheapen subsistence. The necessary labor segment shrinks, and the surplus segment automatically expands to fill the day. Both technological automation and the drive for longer hours are structural mandates of the system. The capitalist is capital personified, an agent forced to optimize this ratio or be destroyed by competitors. This relentless optimization renders a portion of the workforce obsolete, creating a surplus population that keeps the baseline price of labor power low. The initial paradox of profit is finally resolved. The formula M to C to M prime has been fully demystified. The extra money generated is simply the liquid form of the working class's unpaid surplus labor time. By separating the concept of labor from labor power, Marx provided a rigorous model showing that capitalism is an engine of expansion built on the continuous extraction of unpaid human time.